Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
The Rita Cosby Show, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, some sad news. Vanessa Trump, who is the ex-wife of President Trump's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., just revealed that she's been diagnosed with breast cancer. The 48-year-old woman who is lovely. I love Vanessa. She's come to my birthday parties in the past. And she is just a wonderful woman and is also dating Tiger Woods. Remember, there's been a lot of talk about that, too, that she's been hanging out with Tiger Woods. But she was married for Donald Trump Jr. for many years. They have a number of kids together, a great mom, a model, Scandinavian, lovely, lovely woman, sharing the devastating personal health update just recently in an Instagram post saying, I've recently been diagnosed with breast cancer. This isn't the news that anyone expects. I am working closely with my medical team on a treatment plan. And she said she wants to thank her doctors for performing a procedure earlier this week on her. Of course, Donald Trump Jr. is still very close with her, even though they're no longer together. They're still also very close. She's also close with the president. You often see her at many, many events. Again, she's the mother of a number of their kids. So you often see her quite a bit at different public events, still very much a part of the Trump family, even though she is no longer with Donald Trump Jr., but they were married for many years. And wow, just heartbreaking news to see this news that she has now been diagnosed with breast cancer and sharing it with the world. And we'll, of course, keep you posted on all of that. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And meantime, President Trump himself obviously keeping very, very busy out there as he's trying to do a major decision that he's probably going to do in the next few days as to what to do with Iran. And there have been a lot of questions as to whether action should come right away, whether he should give maybe peace a chance. There's a report tonight, and boy, has he bent over backwards to try to accommodate all these different individuals that have come forward to him, like the Pakistanis. And now the latest round is the UAE, folks from the United Arab Emirates, the Saudis, the Qataris, saying that they may have a deal. And there's a report tonight that just came out a few minutes ago that says essentially that he believes a deal may be close. Let's hope. Boy, would that be great. But he's also not naive enough to just trust anything from the Iranians on face value. And in the meantime, he was out there today talking to the Coast Guard Academy. Now, the Coast Guard has been really instrumental with this blockade against Iran. They have blockaded so many of the ships that have been coming forward, the illicit, dangerous ships that have been coming forward. So when he's speaking to the Coast Guard, not only does he love the military, and in fact, I've done events with President Trump heralding the U.S. military. This guy loves the military through and through. I can't tell you how many times in the past when there has been some sort of military charity or something, and I've said, President Trump, even before he was president, can you lend your support, just your name or whatever? Is there any way, Rita, whatever you need, I'm in. If it's the military, I am in. That's the kind of guy he is. He absolutely loves the military through and through. And so today he was in Groton, Connecticut at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy, and you could tell he was right at home. And boy, does he love these brave cadets that were there at the commencement. Listen to this. What a treat to have him as your commencement speaker.
And hello, cadets, and let me begin by saying a very big congratulations to the class of 2026, special class. It's a true honor to be here on this magnificent day at one of the most prestigious military academies anywhere in the world, and I'm thrilled to become the first president to ever give a second keynote address to this storied institution. I am very proud of that honor. We'll have to try it a third time. We're going to have to try it maybe a third time, too, to keep that record intact. And a few moments from now, every graduate in the field will go forth with a even greater honor, one of the highest distinctions anyone can attain. You'll become commissioned officers in the United States Coast Guard, and our country is hot. This is a great time.
And then he also proudly said, "You guys are the best Americans out there. You're heroic." One of the guys shows up and he's like, oh my God, I almost broke my hand shaking his hand because these guys are fit. He had like the ones who were like passed all the military physical fitness tests. The one guy came up, it was like Mr. Buff walking up. And even President Trump said, boy, that guy is tough. That guy's strong. That guy's great. You guys are amazing. You could just tell how much he loves the military and appreciates, especially right now, because they are in wartime. Think about that. Think about addressing those young men and women out there and saying, you know what? I may be sending you to battle soon. And here's what he had to say.
You're America's first defenders. You are America's first responders. You are the living standard bearers of America's first fleet. As your commander-in-chief, I could not be prouder of the great class of 2026. Congratulations. Congratulations. Amazing. And I'd have no doubt to say, and just like those Coast Guard legends who came before you, you will always put America first. We put America first now.
And President Trump also earlier in the day said the clock is absolutely ticking on Iran, that one way or the other, this is going to be wrapped up. So it's up to the Iranians. Is it going to be peace or is it going to be pummeling?
Well, in the Iran, I had no choice because they were going to have a nuclear weapon. We're not going to give them a nuclear weapon. But that's going to end soon, one way or the other. Oil is going to come tumbling down. There's so much oil. We have 1,600 ships in the Strait that are loaded up with oil that are going to be coming out very soon. So we'll have to see. But the military has been unbelievable. The blockade has been infallible. Not one ship has gotten through the blockade. 37 have tried. They all wish they didn't.
And I want to play, this is cut number 10. This is General Jack Keane, because, of course, he is the head of the Institute of the Study of War, senior strategic analyst there at Fox News, former vice chief of staff for the Army. This guy knows his stuff, one of the best military strategists out there. And General Jack Keane was telling us on Katz and Cosby that whatever happens now, he firmly believes that we need to, quote, finish the job with Iran. And it was fascinating because he believes that there's like 2 to 3 weeks worth of military targets that are still on the table that they put on pause because they said, okay, we'll do this ceasefire. We'll try to see Iran claims are going to come to the peace table. So they didn't finish the last 2 to 3 weeks of pummeling, which was power plant, bridges, Karg Island, a whole bunch of those really key strategic locations. And General Jack Keane says, you can't trust the Iranians. Quote, let's go in. Let's finish the job. Talking about from the air, not going in with ground troops. Finish the job and obliterate them because these people are not coming to the peace table, not coming fairly to the peace table. Take a listen.
What people are concerned about, so our audience understands, if we go back to combat operations, the Iranians are threatening, and the administration is listening, that they would retaliate against the Arab oil and gas fields. And as a result of that, the world could spin into some kind of global recession. Well, first of all, that doesn't account for the fact that we can defend those capabilities, and not all of that is going to get through. It doesn't account for the fact that we can take Karg Island, and I'm glad you brought that up, Rita, We can tell the Iranians before hostilities begin, if you attack the Arab oil or gas fields, we will begin to systematically dismantle Cargallen. In other words, systematically destroy it. And every oil and gas export facility that you have on your mainland, we will destroy. And I think that is leverage. Whether it works or not I don't know until we actually execute it. But it is significant leverage that we have. I just know we're not in a good place right now with looking for a deal. I know President Trump is not going to make a bad deal. That I've got confidence in. But as I've said, there's also limitations to even a good deal because it extends the life of the regime for sure, and they're going to cheat and try to reverse it.
Yeah, he says no matter what, if you don't finish the job, they're going to lie, cheat, steal, as you heard, and then President Trump's just going to have to come back at him, or a future president. Think about that. If he doesn't finish the job, Keane's point, the great general there says, you know what? If he doesn't finish the job, and then God help us, it's somebody like a Biden or an Obama who comes in next time into the White House. You don't know what happens politically. They get back in, then it's appeasement all over again. And that's a scary premise, too, for the world. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Robert in Philadelphia on line 3. Go ahead, Robert.
Hi, Rita. It's good to talk to you as always.
You too. By the way, we always love hearing from you, Robert.
Thank you. But just real quick before I get to my point, that unhinged caller calls a station down here in Philly during the day with the same exact lines with different names and different locations. I'm sorry that he's putting you through that. And
it is. And you know what? What is wrong with people like that, Robert? First of all, because we're talking about Democrats with like essentially psychological problems, and then I got the poster child calling me.
And it must be exhausting being that unhinged for that long of a time each day, preoccupied with politics. But you made a good point when it came to the J6ers, but it's not just the J6ers. There was a lot of people other than the people who were unjustly persecuted on January 6th. Yes, there were bad ones, but the vast majority weren't. And the people like Roger Stone and Rudy Giuliani and all of the people that were working in the Trump campaign that were surveilled by the Obama administration. Rita, we had unprecedented corruption and lawfare waged by the Democratic Party, and it's only fitting that the compensation should be just as big. And my only regret is that it's not coming out of the padded bank accounts of the corrupt clowns who perpetrated that persecution, who were voted for by that idiot who called you earlier.
You know, it's interesting, Robert. You bring up a great point because I thought about Rudy and Roger and a number of those individuals when this came down about this sort of. Yeah, exactly. Yes, no, great point. Great point. You think about all these people who went through all of that. And I believe that is Trump's way of saying, I'm sorry that you had to go through this, that you guys were, political targets because you supported me. I mean, it's like anybody who supports him, it gets vilified. And it's a really dangerous place to be. And for anybody who doesn't think that like the Biden administration and a number of others were going after people unfairly if they had any Trump ties, let alone the president himself, the ex-president, I mean, they were trying to break him. They were trying to crush him. And, I thought about it a lot today, too, Robert, because I was watching his commencement address that I just played at the Coast Guard Academy. And one of the things I thought was really amazing, and it reminded me of all the lawfare he went through and probably what he was telling his friends like Roger Stone and Rudy Giuliani during their darkest hours. Also, Peter Navarro. That's another name. Remember Peter Navarro? Who got stopped at the airport. I think it was in Atlanta. They treated him like he was like a mass murderer. Peter talked about just horrifying how tough that was. Roger, they showed up at his door, remember, I think before sunrise, and CNN happened to be there. Steve Bannon. I mean, there were a number on that list. But I thought it was really powerful today, Robert, when he was speaking at the Coast Guard commencement. He said his best advice to not just the cadets, but really people in life was never quit. You must show determination. You must fight, 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 which we saw obviously so powerfully in Butler. But that really is his motto for life. And boy, if there's ever somebody who epitomizes never quitting, I mean, they did everything they could to this guy. And you think about all the assassination attempts that have been against this guy too, and he is still standing strong. And he had a 37-0 track record last night, never stronger politically. So Robert, your final thoughts on like Trump's message to the accusers, and now he's saying, you know what, you got to stand strong, and that's what he's telling these cadets to in life.
It's a war worth waging, and if every victory we achieve angers callers like that, that's the icing on the cake for me. The politics is great. That's the personal satisfaction. So it's all good ahead, I think, Rita. But it's always great talking to you, man. I really hope you have a great night.
Thank you. I will, now that we heard from you, Robert. Thank you very much. And everybody, we are going to continue your calls after the break. 1-800-848-9222. And you're listening to The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And by the way, Jeff Bezos coming out swinging against Zohran Mamdani, really saying it's horrible that he has cast fellow billionaire Ken Griffin as a villain, saying that it was horrible to call him out in that video showcase his penthouse, saying, you know, Ken Griffin is a great, great upstanding citizen who's done so much for New York. And Bezos saying it is deplorable that Mamdani doesn't get it, how important it is to have people who really, really contribute to the city of New York. We'll talk about that and a lot more. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Sal in New Jersey, line 5. Sal, real quick, your thoughts.
Hello, Rita. Rita, we have to stop listening to the U.S. media, because the U.S. media is a propaganda organ of communists. We have to watch people like places like Fox News, read the New York Post, Wall Street Journal. And another thing I want to say is that that's what we have to do. We have to. They're against us.
Watch the good stuff. I hear what you're saying, Sal. Your point is coming out loud and clear. I agree with you. And there are good media. You got to listen to like the Rita Cosby Show. That's all you got to do.
The Rita Cosby Show, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And as we are talking about this anti-weaponization fund, President Trump saying he would like the money to be reimbursed, given and awarded to those who were weaponized under the previous administration. Sadly, there's a long list. Maybe some of the folks that were there on January 6th, some of the folks who defended the president and were vilified. The president himself can't get the funds, but I'd say he would deserve a lot just for what happened at Mar-a-Lago. Remember, guns blazing in the middle of the morning? And then when it came time to Joe Biden, on the other hand, I just can't recall with Robert Hur. Remember Robert Hur, the special counsel, said he's a feeble, well-meaning elderly man that nobody would prosecute because he can't even remember facts or anything else. So they felt sorry for Joe Biden, even though all the classified documents were hanging out, many of them in Hunter's red Corvette in the driveway. That sounds like a real secure place. But there's a lot of questions about that. So we'll be talking about that, obviously, tonight. Meantime, also, the Democrats joining forces with the NAACP, and they are calling for a black boycott of athletic programs at Southern universities, saying that they should not have any athletes attending Southern universities, that there shouldn't be funding to Southern universities. They're like trying to do whatever they can. No business to Southern universities, because they're upset that some Southern states like South Carolina are looking at doing redistricting. Now, remember, they had no problem with redistricting in Virginia until suddenly the Virginia Supreme Court and the U.S. Supreme Court and everybody stepped in and said, whoa, whoa, whoa. And now in South Carolina, they're redrawing a district, And they're saying, well, you're cutting out James Clyburn. Maybe he can't get reelected after so many years. So that's racist because he's a longtime African-American congressman from the great state of South Carolina. So it's got to be racist, right? Everything is Jim Crow 2.0. And listen to Hakeem Jeffries. He is the House Minority Leader talking about this boycott of the South. He says we have to boycott the South because they're trying to cut out a black congressman.
And it's an honor to stand with members of the Congressional Black Caucus, as well as former athletes committed to this cause in getting this egregious situation turned around. This is an unprecedented moment featuring an unprecedented attack on black political representation, and therefore it requires an unprecedented response. That's right. We are here standing in solidarity with the NAACP and its call for athletes to boycott institutions within the SEC that belong to states that have unleashed these Jim Crow-like racially oppressive tactics, which is unacceptable, unconscionable, and un-American. And we believe that the silence of these institutions is complicity. That's right. And we will not stand for it.
I mean, this is just so crazy. It's like, remember when they were boycotting Georgia because they didn't like some decisions that were happening there. Oh, you shouldn't contribute. You shouldn't host these games. You shouldn't do that. Remember, it's like intertwining sports and politics. It's terrible. Really, really terrible. But here is Gavin Newsom, because if you look at a lot of polls, he's number one or two, maybe given it could be AOC. What a scary premise. It could be him or AOC, maybe leading the charge in the next presidential race. And here is Gavin Newsom, and he sounds like he's on the warpath too.
We have agency. We have a responsibility. It's just like the issue of redistricting. We could have decided to write an op-ed. We could have decided, hold hands, have a candlelight vigil, win the argument. These guys are ruthless on the other side. Trump's not screwing around, and nor can we. Yeah, it's uncomfortable fighting fire with fire. Yes, we all want the better angels. Yes, we want the Sorkin sound and music, little West Wing. I do. But we'll lose our country. We will lose our country.
You may lose your sanity first. I'm telling you, the West Wing sound. And I had to play this clip for you guys because this to me is just disgraceful. Bradley Cooper, not to be confused with the great actor who was in American Sniper, by the way, and also so many other great films. But he is the name of the CENTCOM commander, very accomplished head of CENTCOM. And this is a guy who's leading the charge there with Iran and very much involved in all the military layers, decorated military officer, seems like a real straight shooter when he talks about military operations with Iran, talking about how many boats they've seized, how many they've interdicted, how many they've moved, how many hits they've had. And he has to testify. That's a requirement. He's got to testify about sort of a status on the war in Iran. So everybody can get a gauge. It's required by Congress. So there he is. And Congressman Seth Moulton, I think, said one of the most despicable things to Bradley Cooper. Everybody's talking. This moment went viral. You got to hear this one.
For a broad range of contingencies. Well, it doesn't seem to be going well. And I would like to know how many more Americans we have to ask to die for this mistake. Do you know? I think it's an entirely inappropriate statement from you, sir. With all due respect. With all due respect, it's not a statement, it's a question.
Sure, now recognize the gentleman from Tennessee, Dr. Desjardins.
How many Americans do we have to die for this mistake? What a disgusting comment. I want to play that again because I find that so unseemly from a member of Congress to the head of CENTCOM.
For a broad range of contingencies. Well, it doesn't seem to be going well. And I would like to know how many more Americans we have to ask to die for this mistake. Do you know? I think it's an entirely inappropriate statement from you, sir.
Gentleman's time is
with all due respect. With all due respect, it's not a statement, it's a question.
Sure, and I recognize the gentleman from Tennessee, Dr. Desjardins.
I'm glad that the CENTCOM guy, can you imagine? In the old days, they would just testify. That's the facts. You wouldn't hear this spin, this whole sort of politicized of the testimony. And now Bradley Cooper, who's not a political guy, he is a military guy, a just the facts, ma'am kind of guy. And there he is having to say, you heard what he just said. He said this is completely inappropriate, because it is. And he had to call it out because he was so disgusted. When I heard it, the first time I watched it when it happened live, I thought, no, he didn't just say that. I mean, what a disgraceful comment from a member of Congress. The Democratic Party truly has lost their mind. And Seth Moulton has said some doozies. And this one really is shameful. And he's a veteran, too. Seth Moulton is a veteran. But he seems to be one of the first ones leading the Trump derangement syndrome. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Sandra in New Jersey. Go ahead, Sandra, line 4.
Hi, Rita. Good evening. I was thinking about what Joaquin said earlier about January 6th, so much not being said. I know for a fact that there was a doctor there when Ashley Babbitt got shot, and he was so willing to help give her CPR, and they pushed him away, and they said no. And he believes that had he done that, she might have had a chance. But why don't they talk about that? Why don't they? And I know this for a fact because we even got him on the Greg Kelly show on Newsmax. He spoke there. So this is a fact. And why don't we hear about that? Why is that quiet all the time? That's important to know that she could have been saved.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And you're right. That should be spotlighted. And you know, you look at also the whole highlight of what happened at that moment. It's just absolutely appalling that she was unarmed. And you look at the history of the guy, the officer, and you know how much I love our men and women in blue. But that officer had a history of being a little loose on the trigger. And then also after this incident, he got promoted. Remember that, Sandra? The guy got promoted. So between the doctor, and I remember hearing that as well, just the history of what happened with this guy, and it seemed like he was heralded as a hero to get promoted. And you didn't hear his name for the longest time. You didn't hear any issues with him. And then it came out much longer. Oh, there was this problem with this guy, and he got promoted. He got a raise. He got a raise for shooting an unarmed civilian, a woman, through a gate. To me, there's a problem. I agree with you. And that's why I say the real January 6th hearings need to happen. And I actually think the Republicans are missing a major opportunity because, let's face it, if on November, if they lose the House or the Senate, they're not going to have a chance to do those kind of hearings. So they need to hurry up and kind of do those kind of hearings to put sunlight on what really happened. Let the American public know the real truth. We certainly don't know the full story. And I suggest, like you just said, you call that doctor, you call a whole bunch of people. Those are the real hearings that we need to hear that happened so the American public can hear the full picture. Because there were edits. Remember, Benny Thompson lost a whole bunch of documents saying, oh, I didn't know I needed to hold on to them. That's a bunch of hogwash. He's been in Congress for how many years? There's so many questions. And Sandra, I'm so glad that you're spotlighting it. Let's go to Nick in Virginia, line 5. Go ahead, Nick.
Rita, I live close to D.C., and we probably had more of this intensive talk about January 6th. But what I'm looking at is what happened on January 7th and beyond, because as you recall, Nancy Pelosi brought in National Guard troops on January 7th and fenced off the whole Capitol and acting like there was a whole regiment of Trump supporters coming. And I remember her saying, I hope you remember this. She said, we need a big gun here so we can just gun them all down. And
I don't remember that, but I'll take a look at that. I take your word for it. But how come she didn't allow the National Guard or her office, and I failed to believe that she would not have had every layer of information on something like this. The fact that, that she didn't allow, they knew that there was going to be this massive protest. I mean, everybody knew there was a massive protest. They didn't know, that things would get crazy and out of hand, but it's pretty easy. The emotions were running high. There were people talking about it online. A 2-year-old could have told you need massive security. And for some reason, according to the Capitol Hill police chief, remember, he came out and said, we put the request in Nancy Pelosi's office and they turned it down. So the question is, why did they turn it down? Who turned it down in the office? Was Nancy Pelosi fully aware of it, her chief of staff? Why have those people not been forced to testify? Remember, the so-called January 6th committee never called in Nancy Pelosi to testify. I mean, and what about Muriel Bowser? The mayor, why was she not called in? What did you know? What were you told? Why didn't you bring in backup? Are you stupid or are you hiding something? What's going on? Because quite frankly, it doesn't take, as I mentioned, a rocket scientist to figure out you need massive security that day. And you're hitting it on the head because there's something really sneaky. Did they want things to get chaotic and totally out of control? Do they want this moment? What do you think, Nick? What's the reason?
Well, before I called you, I tried to find out on the internet on what happened on January 7th and beyond, and there's not one story. It's all about the leftist stories about Nancy Pelosi. They're saying Nancy Pelosi did not refuse. Refuse. It's all they're burying the whole January 7th and beyond story, and the whole thing was a setup. And Rita, remember that Nancy Pelosi had a video with her daughter in the car, and she was admitting that she screwed up on January 6th.
Yes, I remember that. I remember that. Absolutely. That's why, Nick, it defies logic that they have not been called to testify. And I actually really think the Republicans, that's one thing that they should be doing. They should be calling hearings saying, here is, and as you heard my name, the real January 6th, the real story of January 6th committee. Because we don't know it. And why are they not forcing the subpoena of a Nancy Pelosi, of the former police chief, the captain, the head of Capitol Hill Police? Why are they not? He actually is the one who came out and said, no, her office was aware. And I was told we don't need it. They have to get approval through. So why are we not putting them all under oath? Force Nancy Pelosi, force her chief of staff, because apparently the chief of staff was the communique. And trust me, in members of Congress office, nothing happens with the chief of staff on something as big as this, that he wouldn't run it by her. That defies logic. I do not believe it. So I agree with you, Nick. The Republicans should not miss an opportunity to not tell the real story for the American public and for the president and everybody else. Great points, guys. And everybody, will continue your calls right after the break. 1-800-848-9222. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a very powerful story from Madison, South Dakota, where over the last century, Madison native and World War II veteran Arthur Mouth has faithfully served his country and also his community. The veteran celebrated his 100th birthday just recently at a peaceful Pines facility, which saw him honored with a ceremony, including recognition from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, highlighting his great service during World War II. Now, from August 1945 to May 1946, he served on the troop ship, the USS General John Pope, as a member of the U.S. Marine Corps, achieving the rank of Private First Class. And happy birthday to him. And, of course, we love all our members of The Greatest Generation and their families here on The Rita Cosby Show. And everybody, support America's military and first responder heroes. The best way to do it, and it's very easy. All you have to do is donate $11 a month. That's all it takes. $11 a month to the incredible Tunnel to Towers Foundation. They do so much. Be sure to check them out at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, let's go to Russ in White Plains on line 2. Go ahead, Russ.
Hi, Rita. I'm a little concerned for President Trump's liability. When they're going after 96-year-old President Raul Castro for shooting down 2 civilian aircrafts that were headed to Cuba, it's reminiscent of something that happened here 25 years ago, and when they used airplanes, civilian aircraft, as weapons against us. So if Castro can be indicted, why won't they go after Trump for the fishermen? And the second thing, as a journalist...
Wait a minute. Wait. Hang on a second, Russ. You seem to be coddling Raul Castro. You understand what happened there. In 1996, the Brothers to the Rescue planes, they were humanitarians. They are American citizens. They were going there on missions of trying to help people who were fleeing a communist regime. They were not armed. There was no notice given to them. And apparently they have on audio tape direct orders from Raul Castro, who was then the defense minister, saying, take the strike on them. They were in international waters, so they weren't even a threat to Cuba at the time, but obviously a threat in their mind, and they just feel like it's okay. So you think it's okay for the Cuban regime to just go and shoot American citizens on planes out of the sky, out of international waters? That is a crazy comment, Russ. So explain how you think it's a good thing.
I don't think anything is good when someone's killed, but how could they have known if there were explosives on those planes or not? And the second
they were in international waters. They're not allowed to. You can't go in international waters and just randomly shoot people out of the sky and no warning. And then there's also audio, Russ, of them cheering, saying, oh, this is great. Oh, we got him. I mean, Russ, don't you understand? Can you imagine if every country was just going around shooting people randomly out of the sky? It's a little different. And I know where you're going with Trump. He's going after narco terrorists that have cocaine and drugs and everything else and guns on their boats. But I guess those are nice, sweet, wonderful people in your mind. And I guess humanitarians are bad. Russ, boy, you solved it. Tonight was a night of loonies. Wow.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?